Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Tamil Nadu Legal Rights Consortium and aegis of the National Legal Rights Consortium and Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I extend a warm welcome to all of you to this important webinar on gender sensitization and overview of the POSH Act. I am Bavitra, the moderator for today's session, and I am excited to have you all with us today. The Tamil Nadu Legal Rights Consortium and Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry have come together to bring this critical discussion to the forefront. Today's workplace face growing challenges related to the gender sensitivity and harassment, which makes understanding and implementing the Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act essential. This session aims to help you navigate these issues and promote safer and more inclusive work environments. At the core, the Tamil Nadu Legal Rights Consortium mission is the belief that legal rights must be translated into action for the betterment of workplaces and society at large. Today's session is part of our ongoing efforts to
Pavitra?
yes, ma'am. I will continue.
Okay.
Am I
Sure.
audible?
Yeah, audible.
It's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Advocate Santhiya. Advocate Santhiya is the president of Tamil Nadu Anti-Domestic Violence Abuse Council, aegis of Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, an accomplished POSH practitioner and a passionate advocate for safe and inclusive workplaces. With a background in law and a vast experience in gender sensitization, she has made significant contributions to raising awareness about the sexual harassment of women at workplace, prevention, prohibition, and redressal act 2013. In addition to her legal expertise, Advocate Santhiya leads the POSH Forward 2024 initiative, an educational program designed to raise awareness about gender inclusivity and workplace safety, particularly for students. Her dedication to both legal practice and advocacy ensures that workplaces are better equipped to handle these critical issues. Advocate Sandhya, we are honored to have you with us today. The virtual floor is yours.
Thank you, Pavitra. That was a very impressive introduction about me, and I'm so excited to have you all here for the session. Okay, we can start the PPT, I guess, Aishwarya.
Okay, ma'am. Sure. Is it visible now? Is it visible, ma'am?
It shows your presenting.
Okay.
Yes, it is visible now. Yes, perfect. Thank you, Aishwarya, for doing this.
I think it's visible now, right, ma'am?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's perfect.
fine.
Okay, without any further any ado, we can get started into the session. Today's topic is, as we have already said, gender sensitization and overview of the POSH Act. And we will be wondering, this is the least touched topic in the whole area of law. We may also come across the POSH Act related sessions, but including the gender sensitization is, I think it is quite different, and it is the most untouched area. We will be seeing why I have included gender sensitization, including the topic with the POSH Act. Through the sessions, we will be getting the and figuring out the answer for this. We can move to the next slide, I think. Yeah, this is about my POSH Forward uh, initiative thing. And you can move forward. Yeah, yeah. This is the main question I have to put before you all. What is the one word that comes into your mind when we say gender? I'll be expecting the answers in the chat box. So I'm just expecting the curious minds to answer all these questions. I'll be giving. I'm not going to put forward many of the questions. I'm just going to give simple questions. If any of you is willing to answer, you may answer. Yeah, slavery. Someone is saying sound audio is loud. Sound audio is very low. Is it? Am I audible correctly?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Thank you. Someone has said slavery. Yeah. So we all have some perception about non-binary. Gender is determined by how one sees oneself. Very good answer. Yeah, someone is again saying audio is display. Let me check this one time. Social constructed concept. So intelligent minds have already answered all these questions. We can move forward to the next slide where we are going to figure out the answer for all these things. So often we confuse with the term sex and gender. We think that they are similar, and most of our educational applications and any applications for the sake, we will be seeing sex and gender somewhere it is very equal to perceive. So the main difference is the sex and gender is very different things, and sex is determined by the birth. For example, if they have certain reproductive organs during the birth, they will be termed as specific sex. And if they are having some attitudes that was predetermined by the society, we are taking any rules or behaviors, they will be termed as gender. So sex and gender is not same. They are two different things. So this is the basic thing we can start with the gender sensitization topic. So without knowing the clarity about the difference between the sex and gender, the other parts are going to be difficult for someone, and which is the main root cause for every harassment happening. We can move to the next slide, Aishwarya. I hope I have cleared the section gender difference. Anyone? Anyone can answer? Okay, gender identity is the thing very much similar to the gender. How they have perceived is very clear. Thank you. How a person just call themselves, how they have to identify, how they have to be perceived in the society is called as gender identity. It has nothing to do with their birth, which was termed as sex, and it is so important for someone to lead their life. They may be assigned with the sex during their birth, and they may feel something, and they may be uh, uh, carrying out through their life in a different way. So, by birth, the sex is determined, and by how they feel is called as gender identity. And most importantly, both should is not so much important for them to uh, be the very single thing to happen for the same gender. Don't have to be same thing. It can be a different thing. Someone can born as a male by birth, and they can feel themselves as a female. That is called as gender identity in gender. And here is where the transgender person, non-binary, and gender queer persons will be coming into that umbrella. Hope this clear. Next slide, please, Aishwarya. Yeah, this is the basic difference between the sex and the gender. As you all can see, sex is something biologically determined, and whereas the gender is something is constructed by the society. It has nothing to do with how they have born. And in sex, we have two things. One is either they can be male or other is female. There is no such thing as included as the third party who are known as transgenders. It is something where we can see the changes like intersex is also included, but mostly it is not determined through the birth. And secondly, in gender, we have multiple phases differs, and the gender is not only particular with the nations. Different nations have set out different rules and gender roles and attributes for their convenience through the culture and tradition they follow. And sex is something is unchanged. Whether they feel after the birth, they feel, or at the certain age of point, they feel something different, has nothing to do with what their basic sex is. Whereas in gender, it can be changeable. There are persons who can feel certain period of time as a male, and certain period of time as a female, and certain period something they can switch over. There are gender fluid persons who are existing, and sex is, as I said earlier, it is by birth, and gender it is known as the how they are feeling inside, how they have to be seen in the society, and they are acquiring themselves. This is the basic difference between sex and gender. There is a question. Can we take the question now, or can we take it in the last part?
We have question and answer segment, ma'am. We can
Okay.
take the questions on.
Okay, done. Sorry. So often, the gender, often when we talk about the gender thing, always comes the gender stereotypes. The gender stereotypes is the constructed rule, like it is so generalized that certain things have to be done or certain feelings have to be felt by this male or this female. This is very particular with the sex, like they have to be certain rules and regulations, they have to be fulfilled, without which the society sees them in a different way. For example, for example, it is a very basic thing in India. If some girl is riding a bike, it is seen as a very big thing. Like they will be comparing not with the any other girl riding, they will be comparing it with the boy, boy who are so normally riding the bike. They will not be seen in a particular way for what they doing. They will be compared because the riding of bikes is always associated with the boys. So there will be these kind of things, and also there will be examples like boys won't cry, and if they started to cry, they will be seen as, why are you crying like a girl? Like they will be associated the crying and the emotions part always with a girl. And they also not only do this, they also term that crying as a very least thing that only women will be doing. So these are the examples that, and also these are the stereotypes we always often encounter in our society. So these are the gender stereotypes that was constructed in our society, and this is a very huge problem. This is actually when we see from the out of the circle, this seems like very small problem, and but it goes to the extent where we always see the harassments happening because of this. Uh, the inequality and the respect and the inclusivity, everything diminishes, and this uh, feeling of being no or being no respect to the other gender, not giving inclusivity for the other genders, and not at all respecting the other genders is the cause for the every single thing happening in and around us. We can move to the next slide. Okay, often I have already discussed about this examples surrounding the gender stereotypes. We can move to the next slide, I think. Okay, one quick question. How do you all guys think that how stereotypes are affecting us, both in either in society or workplace? Some of them are from student background. So how do you think that workplace affects this stereotypes affect the workplace? Okay, we can switch to the next slide, please. Yeah. Because of this stereotypes, gender stereotypes, or as we already discussed in the previous slide, what is the result that comes with the gender bias? Gender bias is a discrimination that we are inhibited with that already conceived biased concept called gender stereotypes. Because of this inequality and irrespecting arises within the individual, irrespective of the gender, both male, female, everyone has this gender bias thing that causes that is a cause for every single actions they have. In the general life of the society, they have that preconceived notions to how to perceive oneself in the life, but in the during the preconceived notions that was inserted in the minds of the individuals from the day they born, like having the colors like blue is for boys and girl is for pink is for girls. It just creates something called gender stereotypes, as we discussed earlier. Because of this preconceived notions, they started discriminating the other genders based on the preconceived notions they have already learned through years and years of parenting and the societal thing that is happening around their life. So gender bias, or through this gender bias, if for example there is a person in the workplace called a HR, they are having they have like they are, will be having the years of life like 25 say for 25. They will be taught with the very gender stereotypic lessons throughout their life, and that person is going to sit in the company and going to hire people and give work for them. They will be obviously, we can't expect any inclusivity, respect, or any such fair thing to happen in that place regarding to the gender. So this bias, when we teach to the children or upcoming generations, can lead to serious offenses like women-related and gender-specific offenses. So we can move to the next slide as well. So I have already discussed about the example part. So we can move to it. Yeah. Gender stereotypes, when carried in the workplace, result in the, as we said earlier, gender inequality, gender bias, and in the extreme cases, it is the root cause for the sexual harassment. So, without addressing gender stereotypes, if you are going to preach about the POSH Act, in my personal opinion, I think it is not going to make any good for the act and also for the life they are having in the workplace. So I think addressing this and teaching the gender stereotypes, gender sensitization from the very young age is, I think, is the best thing to do to prevent the sexual harassment that is going to happen in the future. So that is the main idea behind my POSH initiative also. So this is the idea behind all those initiatives. So without addressing these critical points that is surrounded in our society, we are going to step into the law and we are going to teach about the legal awareness. The gap that is between the societal constructions and the gender stereotypic things and the law should match to get the better fruit from that awareness session. That is my one of the opinion based on the related to the POSH Act and any gender specific laws that is having in India. Without addressing this gender sensitization, if you are going to keep on teaching about the law, that is not going to do any good. We can move to the next slide, I think. So, why gender sensitization is important? I would be like to get the answers, but in the question and answer part, we can move to the next slide. We can move to the next slide, actually. Yeah, as I said earlier, through giving the prospective teaching about the what is gender role, what is the existing gender stereotypes, how we have to overcome all these things, how we have to respect the other gender, how we have to inclusively seek everyone to live a perfect, inclusive society is all we have to teach in the gender sensitization. So, gender sensitization, as in the slide, is the process of educating the people. We have to educate not only about the law, we have to educate about the prevailing root cause behind all those things, which is definitely inequality that is already existing, respect which is not existing, and inclusivity. Inclusivity is something which is very, very least thing that every young generation is not knowing this inclusivity part. Throughout previous my slides, you can see that I have only mentioned male and female. I haven't mentioned about transgender. This shows that inclusivity is not there in my PPT also. So because of this imbalances, like small things, it is so necessary, but I'm not addressing them, and no one has raised any questions about that. So this, I think, for this thing, I have not done that part. So I thought someone will be questioning that. Okay, maybe in question and answer session, I think they will be shooting the questions, I guess. So, including of all the transgenders, non-binary people, every single person under the umbrella, as some people may know or may not know, about the people under the LGBTQI+, every single person, everyone, irrespective of any age, any gender, any person has to be treated equally with respect, and they have to be inclusivity. We may be thinking that we are giving the work opportunity for them with which they can gain respect. No, irrespective of any gender, say it is a transgender. If we are giving the opportunity, it doesn't stop there. We have to respect them as a person. May be either they may be a male or female. How they are respecting them has to be given to that person also. We have to inclusively have to maintain the conduct of workplace. This is called as inclusivity, and I think this is not at all, we are talking about the women only here, but going to transgender is way more changes to be needed in the society as well as in the minds of every person. So, on the whole, this slide says that gender sensitization is very important to address the people, to educate the people, to promote equality, respect, and inclusivity. That's it. Next slide, please. So, here comes how gender sensitization is linked with POSH Act. Next slide, please. So, if I have tried these techniques, how in inhibiting the gender sensitization program with the awareness section about the POSH Act, how it is going to result. It has resulted in a very beautiful way when I teach college students through my POSH initiative. So this gender sensitization that actually complements the POSH Act. Everyone who are practicing in the POSH Act and taking sessions about the POSH Act, their very motive is to just cut down all the harassments that are going to happen. But their intention is so good, but without addressing the gender sensitization, that may look like they have attained the results, but the root cause, without addressing this root cause of gender sensitization, I think it is going to be a hard situation and it is going to take so long years to POSH Act only. So this is the thing that I have in my mind. And about the POSH Act, it already has everything. It speaks about the redressal thing. It speaks about the prevention thing. It speaks about the prohibition thing also. So in the POSH Act, where it comes about the prevention thing, here my gender sensitization topic steps in. If we prevent the offenses that are going to happen in a very first step by addressing every single thing like gender rules and gender sensitization, I think the next step we are the POSH Act is speaking like prohibition and prevention and redressal. It is not going to take the second and third step. We are very first just cutting down all the offenses that are going to happen. So this is about this slide, and we can move forward to the next slide. So history of the POSH Act, I think many of us are from the law background and we always have this history of POSH Act very well in our mind. But also I have to address other persons, so I'm just having this overview of the history of the POSH Act. We can move to the next slide. Yeah. Yeah, this is the slide we already know. Banwari Devi, she's from a low caste community and she was a social worker and without any educational background, she served as a social worker in a social NGO when she was preventing the marriage of a just born 9 months baby. They have arranged a marriage for that baby aging only 9 months, like we can carry like this. So she have prevented this act, a nonsense thing that she have prevented. But what she has faced is very cruel thing that should not happen to anyone. So she was assaulted and gang raped, and her husband was also harassed and also faced assaulted, and she has been gang raped in front of her husband. So I'm sorry I have used the word rape, and I think it's okay. So because of this offense, they have just carried out the next step to filing the case, and every single thing happened like any other case. But in the next slide please. In the next slide, it was so unacceptable like the judge said that the upper community person will not rape someone in a lower caste woman. Because of this agreed action, which is not at all unaccepted by anyone, there is a NGO she was working and they took the case forward, and because of that Vishaka committee was formed, and through that Vishaka guidelines were given addressing particularly about the women's safety in the workplace with regard to the sexual harassment and everything. This was a very, very significant judgment that everyone must know, and this history is something which we should not forget at any time. Whenever we see POSH Act, there is this uh, huge fight by a lady who has survived her sexual harassment and gave us a beautiful act for every single woman in India to protect themselves. So this, I think, this judgment is very important judgment in our Indian legal history. So next slide, please. Yeah, so they have started in the 1997, but in the next slide, we will be seeing that it has only enacted in the year 2013. We can see the difference of years from 1997 to 2013. This is the huge fight that women have faced to give us an act. We can move to the next slide. Yeah, Vishaka guidelines. Initially, the Vishaka, before the POSH Act, there is a Vishaka guidelines only that was formulated by the Supreme Court to deal with the cases involving the sexual harassment at the workplace. And that, based on that guideline, which is very important guideline, that is the base for the POSH Act. The guidelines turned into a POSH Act law. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is from the 1997 fight. They turned to December 2013 to bring it an act. So through the name of the act, we can very well see that the sexual harassment of women. So this act is gender specific, only to women, and it is addressing three things. One is prevention, prohibition, and redressal. These are the three main areas from which we can solve the problems relating to the sexual harassment happening in the workplace. They have very well set out the guidelines which turned into an act. We can move forward with the slide. Yeah, the main objective of the POSH Act. This was discussed, I think we can move forward. Yeah, I'm not going to covering in and out of every single section. I'm just taking the key definitions of certain things, certain terms, and I'm going to deal only with the operating part of the act alone. I'm not going to bore you all with the legal terms and all. I hope I won't do that also. I'll just keep in my mind. So the section 2 in subclause N, the sexual harassment is very well defined. It just speaks about every single thing, whether it is a physical contact, advances, any demands, making sexually colored remarks, showing pornography, any other unwelcome physical, verbal, non-verbal conduct of sexual nature. It just speaks about A to Z. Any woman can face in the workplace harassment. It just speaks about everything, but there are things where some may think it is particularly for male. They just doubt what physical conduct I have to do, or with what I have to refrain. It is so grey, but there are interpretations for every single thing. but they are just having through the judgments we can see that how we can differentiate with whether the physical contact is very friendly or it is sexually colored. It is based on the scenario. Through this we can't just judge like if you are going to tap on the shoulder, it is going to be stated as sexual harassment, and that female is going to just write a complaint and I'm going to face all the legal consequences. No, it is just in the act, but through the interpretation, we can just identify whether it is sexual harassment or not. So the Act just covers every single thing that a woman can face in her workplace. So it is just for the prevention of the sexual harassment happening to that woman. We can move to the next slide. So workplace. The Act is gender specific and also it is location specific. It just covers the workplace harassment. But in some scenarios, if the woman is facing the harassment outside the premises of the workplace, but her visit to the outside of the area is connected with her work related thing, then she can also write her complaint. So the term workplace has been defined expansively and includes traditional office setup, like any single thing, like we don't have to doubt whether it has to be government or private or every office they are having a professional setup. It is called as a workplace. And also they have particularly have stated any place visited by the employee in the course of employment, whether the visit is the whether the visit of that female employee is related to work or not is the question here. If she is going to do the personal visit to some other places and she is going to complain it in the workplace setup, it is not going to do anything. It has to be related with the workplace. And every educational institution, sports institution, every single thing comes under the term workplace. Next slide, please. Yeah, here is the thing. The sexual harassment is only against the women or addressed under this act. Yes, this act is very, very gender specific. The complainant here can only be agreed women. No man can, no man cannot raise any single complaint against anyone. Yes, of course, they have separate official code of conduct. Through that, they can complain. But under the POSH Act, they cannot complain because the complainant here can only be aggrieved women. We can move to the next one. Yeah. So this here comes that redressal thing. For the redressal thing, if there is a complaint arises, where they are going to write the complaint is the thing we are going to deal with. The internal committee is the committee of a person who is called as staff person, a presiding officer. He is the senior most women in that workplace setup. Any workplace having more than 10 employees must have this setup called internal committee. Here, the senior woman will be the presiding officer. Under them, there will be two members. One can be among the employees and another one must be an external member. He or she should not be connected with the workplace in any form. He or she should be very, very external. They should not have any connection with them. That person must be dealing with the social work or maybe having the legal background thing. Because this is the setup, having the internal persons there and also having the external members also. Because of this setup, fairness can be expected at the most. We may come across the thing like if the harassment has happened and a complaint has raised, we may think that the person already employed there is the person who is sitting as a presiding officer, and how come the justice is going to be served? For that uh, checking, one external member who is not at all related to the company are mandated to be a member in that IC committee. So I have said that if it is going to be 10 or more employees, only they are going to have an internal committee. What if a person working in a place that is having less number of employees, like below 10? So here comes the next slide that says local committee. So this is the setup framed by the government. Here, the district officer will be the presiding officer. They will be having nodal officers also for dealing all the cases. So any workplace having members, employees below 10, and the person, a woman working there is having faced the sexual harassment, can write a complaint in a local committee. That is, usually this committee will be in collectorates of every district, or in the government's website they will be listing down the name of the district officers and their office, their address, and their email ID. So this is the remedy for the persons who are working under the workplace having fewer employee setup. So they don't also have not to worry about the redressal mechanism for them. They can always seek help from the district officer. But most of the district officers have not been listed in the government side. But we are trying to get all the details, and if possible, I can share in the future time. We can move to the next part. Yeah. Another mandate system is policy arrangements. Every companies must have that POSH policy, which says every single thing, how the conduct of the employees have to be related to the professional setup. What is restricted, what is not restricted, but the policy, any guidelines they have quoted in the policy must not contradict with the POSH Act. It has to be gender neutral. It has to be gender neutral or gender specific, but it should not contradict with the POSH Act already existing. It is very clear. So the policy, the main idea behind the policy is to promote the equality, promote the respect and inclusivity among the employees, to prevent and prohibit what is wrong and what is not wrong. They have to state it clear, and they have to give it to the employees so that they can prevent themselves from not doing that thing. So if it is very strictly formed and very inclusively formed, I think this policy can cut down all the offenses that can happen in the workplace. But POSH policy thing nowadays has become a gender neutral also. They cover every men, every women, and transgenders also. So that practice is also evolving, which is very encouraging. Yeah. So this POSH policy has to be done by the employer, that is the owner of the organization, has to submit the POSH policy that they have complied with. So employers are required to conduct awareness sessions also, like writing down everything in a document and giving it to the employees is not up to the mark. So in an interval, like say for annually, they have to at least annually conduct a session which concentrates on the POSH Act, their provisions, and gives the awareness about there is an existence of the Act. If you are going to do this and that, you are going to face all these legal consequences. And for and for the female, if you are facing any of the issues, how you are going to take it forward to the complaints committee, and how you are going to get the rectifications from that. Every single thing has to be given as a knowledge and input to every employee to maintain the safe workplace environment in that office setup. We can move to the next slide. So next comes the redressal mechanism. So after facing any sexual harassment, that aggrieved women can raise a complaint, and that has to be before IC committee if it is more than 10 employees, or it has to be given to the LC, that is local committee, if the a number of employees working there are below 10. So after the complaint was raised by the aggrieved women, the IC has to get into the case. They have to take an inquiry with both the aggrieved women and the alleged person. They have to conduct an inquiry. In that particular part, there comes the gender sensitization. If the person sitting there, the person sitting in that committee is already having the gender stereotype that if every time a woman complains, she is a victim. Without going into the facts, without going into the circumstances, they are having the pity face for the aggrieved women. Fairness cannot be attained. Here comes the gender sensitization program specifically for internal committee members. So that is also a program we POSH practitioners do to sensitize them with the actual gender lessons, where they can just call out the things about their preconceived notions about male and female, and can deliver the fair justice for both men and women. So this is the main part most of the cases lack, and fairness cannot be attained. So IC committee has the discretion to extend the time also. If the complaint is asking for some time for their valid reasons, considering their valid reasons, they can extend the time also. And the inquiry process starts immediately. They can, but the inquiry has to be completed and within the 90 days from the date of complaint. And during the inquiry, as we proceed into any civil court, the national justice system has to be followed here also. They have to be given equal opportunity for both the aggrieved women and the alleged men. We cannot deny that men cannot be part of the inquiry and just protect the women from giving the answers. No, it is not at all allowed. Both have to be presented. Both of their submission has to be taken. Both of their arguments have to be taken. Evidences have to be taken, and then the fair justice can be given to them. So the IC have to be very, very particular with this inquiry process to know the real truth behind what have happened, whether it have happened, and has to give a fair judgment. Actually, technically, they will not be termed as judgment. They will be termed as an inquiry report. They will be recommending what has to be done if the offense has been proved. We can move to the next slide, please. Yeah, here comes the inquiry report. And through this inquiry report, the recommendations will be drawn from the IC committee, checking out all the facts and circumstances, inquiries they have conducted, whether it have happened or not. And after the completion of the inquiry, they have to be submitted. It has to be submitted within the 60 days. So, conducting the inquiry is the very crucial part where there may be fairness or may not be fairness at all. So this is the very crucial part in the whole POSH Act, I think, because of which a male gets the fear of being not heard, and this fear is not with the POSH Act. It has to do with the IC committee too. The person sitting there has to be gender sensitized and they have to maintain that fairness. The the justice is not in the hands of the law, it is in the hands of that person sitting there. So this is the main drawback that we face in the POSH scenario. So that is the thing. We can move to the next slide. So what if there is a false complaint? If a woman has falsely or maliciously complained, not every time there is going to be a true case everywhere. There may be persons they can falsely complain because of any workplace politics. They can just file a complaint and just drag the other person, that is men, into the case and let them suffer and just gain that benefit. So not all times a woman files a complaint is a true case. There may be false case also. For preventing this section has been formulated. The person who have enacted this act has very future-centric things, because of which they have this section very, very specific for the punishment of false complaint. Here also the person who is going to get the punishment is women. So we can't say that it is very against the men. It is also addressing this issue against the men. It's a clear thing we can see from this section. If a woman makes a false complaint, she is going to face the problem. The inquiry can also be taken against her. They can also recommend her not to work here, terminate her, give punishments for her. So she cannot get escape from the false complaint she has done, which is a very big offense against that men working that place. So this is the protection. This is the protection we have for the men in this gender specific act, which is for the female. So before thinking that this act is only for women, we should concentrate on this nuance, this punishment for false complaint section into the mind that this is made only for men. Come on, this gender specific law is not only gender specifically created for female alone. It is also kept the welfare of the men who can be suffered through this act. So they have given a checkpoint here, I think. So the next step is, if anyone, like not only the aggrieved women, if the person against whom the complaint was raised, that is going to be men, can also file an appeal against this inquiry report within 90 days from the report. Here, the appeal system is also have been given to that men. This is also concentrated with the men welfare thing. So they can take that appeal forward and they can get the justice through this appeal system. So this POSH Act does not create any fear to the men. It is actually addressing their fears also. The only single thing that I'm repeatedly saying is, if the person sitting there is not at all sensible and not at all having the knowledge of the gender sensitization. They may be chances for injustice also. That is my opinion. We can move to the next slide. So we have already seen that the companies who are having more than 10 employees must do the post awareness sessions annually, and also they have to uh, uh, create a detailed report whether how much of sexual harassment have been raised and how they have solved, how much of them are unsolved, what happened, every single thing about the sexual harassment sometimes has to be made it as a report, which is called as POSH complaints report. They have to submit that also. They have to conduct awareness sessions very frequently. They have to do the uh, uh, that complaints report stating what had happened, and also most importantly, internal committee has to be set up. If they are have crossed 10 members, they have to set up a IC committee to address every single issue related to sexual harassment by the women working there. So if they are failed to do that, they will be given a they have to submit the complaints report stating everything that they have checked out every thing like that POSH policy, POSH awareness programs, and the IT committee thing, and they have to submit it as a report to that district officer. They have to they are monitored under that district officer who has been appointed to take care of all these POSH complaints. For each and every district, there will be district officers. Before them, they will be submitting. If they fail to submit that POSH complaints report, then they will be fined up to 58,000. If they are repeatedly doing that, there are chances that they may lose the license for doing the business also. That is, this POSH Act is very specific, like they don't allow that prevention part, that redressal part, that prohibition part. In three things, they are too specific, and they have addressed that to take it into an account, like they have to give a report, and if they fail so, there are chances that they can lose the business also. The act is very strong, but the implementation, I think that lags very, very behind. So we can move to the next slide, please. Yes, thank you all. I think I have covered some of the operative sections in the law, and not I have not dragged so much of legal terms, and I just given an overview of the POSH Act alone. I think I hope I have given some of the insights to all of you.
Thank you so much, Advocate Santhiya, for the enlightening session. Now it's time for our question and answer segment. Participants, you can type your questions in the chat or raise your hand if you like to ask verbally. I'll be the moderating the questions. Ma'am? There is. Am I audible? Ma'am, you are on mute.
You are on mute, ma'am. Santhiya.
Yeah. Sorry.
The question is, though we have laws in regards with the POSH Act, but still we know people have fear to file a case of sexual harassment as due to fear of social stigma or due to family support. Many survivors don't fight against such crimes. So in such way, what social or legal measures to bring a kind of social acceptance towards such law in our society and families? Is it possible to remove such stigma to some extent at least?
Yeah, there are chances, I think, through these initiatives as ours, as WICC's sessions, and we people like us, we are doing more sessions. But Actually, taking the stigma away from that victim is very important thing, but we can't take it overnight or in a short period. It is a gradual process. We are working on that. Maybe at any point of time in our society, we may just jump out of that. But the stigma that has is, I think, is the most difficult thing to take away very easily. We support systems and social work, legal awareness camps, every single thing has to be done, and we are working on that. But reaching that person's mind and taking that stigma away from that single person is, I think, it is a very difficult part we face actually. But there are support systems we have to do. Family and friends, and they can reach out. There are online forums also to speak about this. They can just get the insights from them, and they can themselves raise a complaint. Also, the government's initiative called C-Box is also working. Many people may not know that there we can file the complaint through online forum. That is completely under government forum. They can also file. There are systems in many workplaces. They can just send a mail, but they cannot be anonymous. That is the problem here. So government is also taking initiative. The boxing has to reach many of the things, many of the people. But the stigma is very difficult. Through process we can attain. I hope so. It has to happen.
Next question is, does POSH Act applicable to transgenders as well?
Transgenders, if they are identifying themselves as a female, it is applicable.
Next question is, how can a man by birth can be determined as a female merely by their feeling?
It is not. That is called a gender. They can by birth. By birth, sex is male, and by gender, they may identify themselves as female.
Next question is body shaming covered under the definition of sexual harassment in POSH?
Body shaming, in a very general thing, we can't say that is covered under POSH Act. If the body shaming is related to any sexually colored remarks, it will be dealt under the POSH Act. Or if it is going to be generally not without any sexual intention, it may come under a code of conduct of that particular office.
Next question is, what is genderqueer means?
Genderqueer means every LGBTQI QI. The QR thing is they can be very fluid. The person can identify themselves as queer.
The next question is, when the POSH Act is centrally and state-wise monitored, why no single platform to raise awareness about such issues?
This is a very technical question. Okay, well, I've answered. I think the state governments and central government has to answer this. But there are people working on that also. Because of that, as I said earlier, C-box thing happened. But awareness sessions through, I think in district offices in under LC committee also they are taking, but the reach is very low. I guess they have to take measures to prevent all these things.
The next question is gender system same as a caste system?
Of course, I think the very root cause of every problem is this. And as how in Indian system, how the caste system cannot be taken away very easily, which is a difficult part. This problem is also as difficult as such thing. In my opinion, completely.
The next question is there any challenges which are faced to identify the genuine cases and fake cases separately? As because of some fake cases, genuine cases get ignored or suppressed, so in such a way, what measures can be taken for it?
Very interesting question. Actually, like I already said, the POSH Act and awareness, all we can do. But at the end of the day, if the case has happened, the presiding officer is the person who we are going to put down our case. And if that person is having that insensibility and no knowledge about the gender roles and stereotypes and every single thing, the justice cannot be served easily. And also in the investigation part, actually in workplaces, it may be easy for them if they are using cameras and every single thing. But if the investigation lags somewhere, if they are going to prevent the office name, like there are politics around that to not to reveal them to just defame the companies, and they may take measures like that, and there are chances that person may go under that thing. These are the difficulties we face. If that person there is genuine and gender sensitized and having that knowledge, the justice is confirmed. But that is the person we lag everywhere, and the justice just lag behind us.
The next question is how to make this act working on ground level simply in the society. What should be our first step to create awareness?
The first step to create an awareness is to create awareness. Is the main motto. Uh, I think that person is very curious who have asked this question. They have to speak about that law. They have to speak about that gender sensitization. That's it. If we start speaking about that, awareness arises, and we can prevent sexual harassment at our level at least.
Next question is victim women can claim or file FIR in regular process according to the CPC, BNS or not?
Yes, of course, they can also parallelly, actually, they can parallelly complain there also, and the employer company has to facilitate them for filing the cases.
Next question is where to file complaint if the presiding officer of the IC is the harasser?
They can, if they are afraid that presiding officer is the one where the actually presiding officer is a woman, also it's that's fine. But if they are afraid that there is not going to be justice served, they can always seek LC, local complaints committee.
Next question is how can the IC conduct an investigation if the perpetrator does not belong to the same workplace but rather someone who is encountered due to the work?
Not belong to the workplace,
but rather someone who is encountered due to work, like client.
Okay, if they are going to be a client, the investigation will be little harder for them. As I said earlier, if there are cameras and if there are cameras or any witnesses or any evidences, we can just check it, but the process is going to be very, very difficult.
The next question is does this act cover the informal sector also?
Yes, of course, it covers informal sector also. As I said earlier, if they are like construction company, any company which we say as unorganized sector, they are also coming under this POSH Act. But there will be no IC committee for them. They will be if there are any complaints or issues, that will be in front of the local council.
And is it possible to designate the victim as a survivor officially in writing or spoken to? As the person who survives such grievous situation, bravely must be designated as survivor, not victim. Hence, why we still designate them as a victim rather survivor? Is it possible to change certain language of such words in the act?
Very, very, very needed, much needed thing. I just give the appreciation to the questioner. Yes, of course, I have that mindset also. This is called as inclusivity, as we said earlier. We should not term them as victims. but in the usual communication we tend to use that. But the people like these people are just changing that. Very good initiative. I hope this also happens everywhere.
And does POSH Act cover only the government or the private sector also?
Every company, irrespective of whether they are government company or private company, every company are coming under this. Any workplace are coming under this process.
If is there a branch office of the main building and the employee of the branch office harass the woman of the main one, which I see would investigate it. Right.
If the branch office is having IC committee, they can file there also. If this main branches is having separate IC committee, they can file either one they can choose. But if they are having the usually if they are having multiple branches for a zone, they will be creating IC committee. They can check in there also.
The next question is, while doing a quantitative research on the POSH Act 2013, people are hesitant to disclose instance of sexual harassment. According to you, what can we do to encourage them to disclose the same?
We have to give a faith that their confidentiality will not be allowed from that. Basically the social stigma surrounded by them is a major hurdle for them to come out of that and speak about that. So in like we in recently HEMA committee also have reported the thing, and even for the person like heroines having the social status is hesitant in many scenarios. So in normal working setup, no, common people like workers, it is difficult for them. But we have to be the support system, gain their faith, and we have to conduct the research.
Participant, if you want to ask question, you can unmute yourself and ask. Is there any questions? There is one question. Can we take any action against any social media user regarding the harassment?
If that person who has harassed belongs to that similar workplace, they can take that action. As I said earlier, they can raise the complaint in the IC committee. If that person is not at all connected with the workplace, he will not be covered under that. They can report that, and they can, if they have to report them, they can report it to the cyber cell.
I think that's all for the question and answer segment. Now I would like to invite the mentor of Tamil Nadu Legal Rights Consortium, Advocate Aishwarya, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Pavitra. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Pavitra, and a big thank you to Advocate Santhiya for sharing your invaluable expertise with us today. I am Aishwarya, member of Tamil Nadu Legal Rights Consortium, and it's my privilege to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of Tamil Nadu Legal Rights Consortium and Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to all the participants for joining today and making the session a success. The insights and strategies shared by Advocate Santhiya will undoubtedly help us in promoting gender sensitivity and ensuring compliance with the POSH Act in our workplaces. I would like to thank our National President, Vaishnavi Murthy ma'am, our team of Tamil Nadu State Council members for being the backbone and leveraging the organization's work ethics, commitment, and passion for the citizens to connect heart to heart. Lastly, a special thank you to our organizing committee, moderators, and the technical team for making today's event possible. Thank you all once again, and we look forward to seeing you all at our future event. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. The feedback form will be shared shortly. In the meantime, can you all on your video, we would like to take some screenshots.
And one thing, Aishwarya, you can also share my profile and email ID for the participants. If they have any doubts, they can reach out to me and I will be happy to answer that also.
Ma'am, they are asking to share the PPT. Can you share this?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I will. After the session is over.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, yesterday, Neha, I think she have inquired the doubt. Likewise, I will be happy to help anyone who are having any doubts regarding this. So please share my LinkedIn profile or my note ID too.
Share the link shortly. I mean, we will share the feedback form shortly.
Ma'am, excuse me. Ma'am, are we going to share the feedback form or the link here in the chat box?
The feedback link, the feedback form link is shared in the chat box. You can access it, and it's only for some time only. So please fill it quickly.
Is it visible? I mean, I have shared. Bhavitra,
Yes.
participants, please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself. We're waiting.
I think that's all for today's evening. Participants, we encourage you all to share a feedback on tonight's seminar. Your input is valuable and we will help. It will help us to improve the future events. Please take a moment to complete the feedback form and for the participation certificates. Have a great evening.
The feedback forms are in the chat box. Kindly fill the same, please.